my friends, I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table. We got little Missy sitting over here behaving herself, and we are looking at a continuation of Cycle 17 of A Game Not Traveled. And this would be Fred Dodge makes direct contact with the tough leader. So in previous encounters, we've established that she's by herself and that she's by herself and that no, there may be somebody present. So maybe. So we need to check to see if there is. She went to a safe house in town. He wasn't spotted following her. We've established that she's, what we know about her is she's a female. She's human. She doesn't appear to be armed. We know her modifiers. Got all of her stats. Blah, blah, blah. We know Fred's stats. So first things first, I want to look at this chart. I'm going to turn almost a little extra light here. Yeah, maybe not that much light. Huh. A different setting here. There we go. Right. My eyes are just a hair blurry for not having enough sleep this weekend is what it is. So we're looking at modifiers. So various conditions, situations during an event can affect a flube's abilities and mindset. Do they have their leader present? Are they vested in the task being demanded of them? Are they trained to deal with the situation? For examples. Player's notes. These modifiers are for the event and not to be added to a character or an NPC's attribute-based modifier in all cases. However, some are fixed, such as personality, flunking, etc. You be the judge. So, does the thingy believe in the cause? Well, define what the cause is. Does the tough believer? I know Fred believes in the cause, because he's a professional, and that's kind of what he does. So that would bring him to a plus 8%, and I'm going to say that the tough does too, because she believes in her own cause, which would be survival. Growing her group, becoming more potent, more powerful, whatever. So we move on to is she a general shirt, or a red shirt, or a general tech? Now neither of them qualify as that. So any of her flunkies would be a red shirt. And it's like if I assigned some just general labor to help, or some techs that are a driver. If I gave a driver to Fred Dodge, and that driver's all he did, well, then he would be a red shirt. He would not be involved, or you would get a negative for that being the person engaged in the event. The next category is flunky. So flunky would be the mid-level. So by definition, both Fred and the tough leader can be considered flunkies. Fred is a subordinate to the minister of the culture and culture and labor. No, geez, I'm getting them all confused. Anyway, he has there's a hierarchy above him. A personality, so that highly trained, classed imperial researcher from a couple events ago, for example, would be a personality. My house ministers are personalities. Potentially NPC captains from freighters can be personalities, although I can make the argument that they're flunkies until we develop them, or until they develop into a personality, or the event role specifically stated they're a personality. So in this case, we'll just call both of them flunkies for the sake of the modifiers in this case. So we're looking at flunky, and you get a +2, and so does our tough. So +2, that gives us a +10% for both of them. Both of them start out with a base modifier for their attributes of +6, and then I've added an additional +4 with these two things. House character has a personal relationship with the NPC. Not yet. if Fred continues to communicate and have contact with this tough leader down the road, and it has some positive outcomes, you could then quantify them as saying that they are on a friendly relationship with each other, which means they gain an advantage, which can also be canceled out, because if you look at it, they're both gaining the same advantage. If I determine they both have a mutual relationship, then both of them can gain the +2 from having that. And in this case, an interaction between the two of them would not be influenced by that modifier. However, if she develops that personality trait with Fred that carries over to the house in general, then anytime she interacts with the house, she would have a bonus 2 for doing so, because she's on good terms with the house, kind of thing. So then we move on to the next layer of that. The house character has an intimate relationship with the NPC. So if they were to become intimately involved, then they would gain a +5 as opposed to a +2. Freedom of action. Is the house character acting alone or without direct supervision? An agent in the field, for example, or a militia captain on a non-allied world. So in my case, Fred has freedom, gaining an additional +2. And so does the tough captain. She doesn't answer anybody but herself. So for right now, their modifiers are pretty much canceling each other out. Are they being rewarded or bribed? Well, Fred is not being bribed, and I use the term rewarded as we're gifting you something to get a positive thing in return, as opposed to I'm going to buy you off, because they both are, by argument, it's the same damn thing. It's just how you want to perceive it. Vested interest in seeing the task or mission succeed. I think Fred has a vested interest. He wants to have a non-lethal encounter here, if at all possible. And so I think he does get the invested modifier. And it would not apply to her. So we will say no on that. And then we go against established morals. We're not asking Fred to do anything that goes against what we think his code of ethics would be. No more than we're asking the tough leader to do anything at this point. There might come a point where if Fred were to ask, see, ideally, for every time you would ask a question to go to get a result, you would go back through this list and check things to make sure. Because if we come up to where we have a point where we're asking her to give up her career of crime, she has a vested interest in saying no, that this goes against her best interest, and she would get a negative. Fred would get a -10 for making that attempt, for doing that. So against the now, fanatical by other means, +10. This is a tricky one. In the ranking system, we start out, as untried and end up as fanatical. And there are other ways of becoming fanatic, though. Fanatic by means of being fervently determined to achieve something, kind of thing. There are implants, bioorganic implants, and cybernetic implants that can ratchet that up and can enhance that. So you could become, where some people were diehard fanatics, they fight to the death because they so believe in their cause that's all they can achieve and do. That sort of thing can occur, and you don't have to have crack troops to be fanatics. You don't have to have a 007 only a 007 could be a fanatic. Now, you can have untried street people who become fanatic based on a situation. Right? So you have to look at that kind of on a case-by-case basis. So by definition, Fred Dodge doesn't really qualify as a fanatic at this point. He's not such a diehard believer in the cause that he would go to any means and any extreme to achieve the goal. Right? And a lot of people won't. There's a big difference, and of course that's a moral thing on the individual player, how you want to look at that. So we go down fanatical, we don't worry about it. Are they trained for the task? Technically, No, because once again, I do have a dojo set up, and I have one sensei who's teaching one field, and eventually there will be others, and one will cover interactions, things like interrogations interrogations, investigations, and damn it, I know what the third one is. Anyway, you're going to trained in those fields and would have a modifier for it. And in this case, the fact that you are trained in that general field gives you a bonus. So ideally, you're already trained in that field and it's already enhanced your base already. So it's kind of like it's a little extra double tap. It doesn't going to make everything, but it's worth checking. Supported. Okay. This is why the previous question was important. Is the tough leader supported? Is there other people present? And we have a maybe. So that means we need to add that caveat to the questions. Does somebody show up? So when Fred initially makes contact, does that draw other members of her gang forward? And if that does, then she gains a +2 modifier for that, and Fred doesn't, because Fred's by himself. So Fred gets no modifier for that, but potentially she could, if we come up with that roll and she gets support right off the bat, or comes up at any point. Then cut off by support during the event. So the same thing scenario happens. Perhaps she does have backup, and the backup shows up, and then for whatever reason they are removed from the scene. Whether they're cut off by being unable to access say maybe Fred and the tough leader go into a room and lock the damn door. She can't just immediately open that door. Then she's cut off by her support and gets a negative for that during the event, as long as the support's cut off, because she's aware that she has backup. She just can't get to it right off the bat. And then we have the NPC has a clear leader or officer present. So in her case, she is the officer. She is the leader. So she does not give herself a bonus. Now, if she had that support behind her and one of them were involved in something at this point, they gain that +2, right? And not her, if we need to go that port. Lose the leadership and officer during the event. Same scenario. If for whatever reason she's eliminated and her subordinate's there, and the event carries over to the subordinate is now at a -15 for the duration of the event, because their leadership was removed from the equation. So each cycle needs, i.e. consumables and or support, goes unmet, a -5, and it stacks. So what that would mean is, if for some reason Fred Dodge, for example, is trapped in a building and he's surrounded by thugs outside, and he starts out from a strong position for negotiations and things like this, but for every cycle that passes, every 6 seconds that passes, he gets less confident in his ability to get out, or the chances of his success diminishes when it comes from a negotiation standpoint. So it's potentially possible you can reach a point where he will surrender by default. That, though, is mitigated by things like fanaticism, once again. So if Fred Dodge is quantified as a fanatic by any other means, or by dint of his training and his personal oaths and things of that nature that's well established, then it would counter that particular negative, and at least, if nothing else, at least diminish it. So in that case, we don't have to worry about that at the moment. And improperly equipped for the environment or mission. That goes without saying. So if you task your agent to go into an extremely dodgy situation, inappropriately armed or inappropriately armored, or you expect them to go fight somebody in a river, and they don't have swimming skills or equipment to help them survive in that environment, they're going to have a big negative, and that applies. That's kind of the way that plays out. So that said, we're going to just bounce on down to the things here. So modifier wise, I came out to where Fred has a plus 14%. And our tough leader has a 12. So if you subtract her 12 from his 14, Fred gets a base 2% on everything, unless something changes in the makeup of the situation. So the first things first, we're going to say Fred is going to call out to her and ask her to get her attention. Does she flee? What's her first reaction going to be? Run. So we have a D100 plus 2. So 73. Moderate, yes. Alright, so Fred calls out at the top. She starts to flee. Does she fight? 0, 8 plus 2 is 10. Plus there was also a modifier here of 15. So 25%. Soft baby. So she pulls a weapon. And then we'll see as a knife. 63. Alright, so she pulls a knife. Now, does she listen? Because Fred's calling out to her, I want to talk to you. She starts to turn to run, pulling a knife as she does. He's like, just listen to me. And 19. Of course not. Soft, no. The 19 plus 2 is 21. Not carried over, so 21. Still puts this as a soft no. So it's not going to listen. Does anybody else show up? 40 plus 2 is 42. Minus 5, so 37. Jesus, we're back to that maybe. Alright, so come around, run. Alright, so around. Fred holds off, pulling weapons. Makes a demand for her to stop. We already have. Does she flee? Yeah, it's a negative. It's not a negative. Blah, blah, blah. And she has a -7. Now to see if to get to that whole work. So 60, 69 minus 7, so 62. So yeah, so she slows. She slows her bolt. Now the question is, what the hell am I supposed to talk to her about? Right? That's the other part. What do you ask her? What do you tell her? She's gonna. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to sound lame with it, but she got a negative 3%. Or he does. The house could use you, he says to her. And see how she responds to that. So 98 minus 3, so 95 is a solid definite yes. That gets her to stop. Okay, so he's managed to break the ground. She started to bolt. He got her to stop long enough to hear him out. Now he wants to talk to her about maybe she, the house could find, she could be useful to the house in some way. So this is where things get to be a little bit, what the hell do you say? Where do you go from there? Talk about the crime, obviously. Crime will exist. Crime will always exist. Better to know who's in charge. Would you be willing to speak with my boss on the matter? Now he's at this point got a negative or a +2 on his modifier, so let's see what she says. 22 plus 2 is 24. Yeah, 24. So soft maybe. Probably doesn't trust anything he's saying. With a negative 2%. So now he's lost his modifier. So Fred says you can bring a bodyguard. So modifier is now 0%. You got +2 minus 2, so 12. Yeah, no. No, she don't want to bring a bodyguard. Alright, so we'll say, well, what if we meet with you at your location? A place of your locating choice. And we also have a negative 15 carryover from this previous event roll, or previous result. So negative 15, +2, negative, so that's a negative 13. Alright, so 76 minus 13 is 63. 63 is a yes. Plus 10%. How about we meet next cycle? Now the previous one was a negative 13, but we gained a plus 10 on this one. Plus 2 gives us a plus 12%. And 7, geez, 19. South, no. Alright, negative 5, which would bring it to negative 3. 2 cycles. 100 at minus 2, so 98%. Okay. Alright, so let's conclude. So on cycle 19, Fred Dodge and the Minister of Culture and Education, excuse me, because I believe he works for the Ministry of Culture and Education, but so his superior, the minister of that ministry, and him will meet with her at a place of her choosing to talk about the potential future of her organization on the planet. You know, so there's some obvious stuff. I mean, you have to, you don't have to, I guess. You kind of want to look at how this stuff plays out. The advantages here of having the local criminal organizations indebted to the house are numerous. There's some possible side effects to that, of course, but for the initial part being is that if you can direct the criminal organizations in your region to not conduct stuff specifically against your house, that's a win. And then you can also then open the window for them becoming patriotic and whatever. So in scenarios that they feel the house should become aware of come up, they'll do so. And then of course the downside is how much are you allowing them to prey on your own population? You know, there's certain elements of a criminal organization that's just how it works. They're going to prey on your population, your citizens, no matter how you do it, because otherwise they wouldn't be what they are and they wouldn't function the way they do. So more important though in this case is that if we can avoid low-level combat or scenario issues on a regular basis with these people, I would be grateful because it's less bullshit paperwork to conduct on a regular basis. The chances are real good right now. I could bring up enough of my house force together to crush these people. Their little organization is not very big. I think I have to go back through my notes to see if I actually rolled out the full stats on it. I think I did, and it was less than like 11 people, 10 or 11 people, including the leader at this point, which would be the equivalent of two squads. And my militia alone is 5 squads right now. Plus, I have my protector servants, which is another 10 squads. All right, you see where I'm going with that. Plus, I can I can create any number of specialty groups units for my various ministries. So Fred Dodge, I know for a fact I have a security squad set up for the Rangers. So the Rangers have their version of a tactical unit, such that it is right. So if I need to send Fred into a situation where he needs some backup, that's the first group you put with him. Generally, you assign a partner with them, then a lesser ranked individual, so they can benefit from the other person's ability, knowledge and things like this. But you also have backup because that's kind of the way it goes. Or how you'd like it to go. Anyway, I'm Rick. Missy's over there in the corner. Hey, I'm grateful for the commentary and stuff you guys pop up. It was one of the reasons I did my griping video that I've already posted by now. It was so I could get some of that out into the out on to the other net. It's hard to get motivated some days. I'm not gonna lie. I know I say it all the time, but it's hard. I work so damn many weird hours, and I'm tired all the damn time. And then there's always other things. There's life, right? I mean, I got up this morning. I didn't have to get up early, but I couldn't sleep past 7 o'clock, so I got up. I was still tired. We go to bed. It was after midnight last night, and I don't sleep as good as I used to. I just don't. And then so I got up and made breakfast this morning, and we changed about half the litter boxes, which is about 40 pounds of the cat litter. That's just half of them. I did the other half the other day, so every couple 3 weeks, at least once a month, I rotate the entire all of them out and put fresh cat litter in. Then the rest of the time you scoop the crap out. You just literally scoop them, and then I tend to consolidate it into. We have 3 in the garage, so at a certain point the litter drops down, so I just dump it into one of them and then put fresh in that one. But once a month, we change all of them out of habit, just because it's genetic, or it's the right thing to do. They can't do it for themselves. We scoop every day, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. And we have three in the house and 3 in the garage. That's 6 cat boxes. Okay, six litter down, 6 litter boxes. So I did those, made breakfast. Still kind of funky. I mean, I need to do videos in order to have content to put out. Sometimes it becomes a chore. I mean, I'm not going to lie. This is the 5th video I've done this morning. I need to have certain ones in certain categories. I still have several BattleTech and Dungeons and Dragons videos still waiting to be posted, but I need to make more. So I keep having a surplus because you just never know. We've also got snow coming in the next 2 days. I have jobs in the morning. It should not affect my jobs. It's supposed to do it until the afternoon, but it's not going to amount to a whole lot anyway. But it doesn't take much. If the roads get slick enough, that truck of mine, it's just the ass end fishtails all over the place, and there's certain weather conditions, I won't drive it anymore. No matter how hard up I am for hours. I mean, I'm not going to risk myself in the truck, or more importantly, the truck, and other people. All right, I tend to think of the truck first and other people, and then myself. So, because without the damn truck, it's my livelihood at the moment. Right. But I don't think the weather's going to be that bad. Tuesday's supposed to be a much busier day for me. Mondays, I tend to kind of I try to be on the low side of scheduling, because I usually tend to work overnight on Sunday night. I did that Friday night instead. I did an IHOP on the west side. It took about 11 hours to do, and so there was a quarter of my check for last week on that one night job, and then which met me all dragging butt all day yesterday, and I'm still kind of feeling it. I mean, that's why I'm grateful I don't have an all-night tonight job too, because it would suck. I would be out there just trying to keep from falling asleep while the damn. Hardest part is when I get to. It's strange. On a big load, it takes 4 trips, sometimes 5, and the second load and the 4th load always take the longest to load, and it's because these things are 10,000 gallons in size, but they're 2 chambers, or 4 chambers actually, 2 sets of 5,000 connected by piping, and so you drain down one side and you get lion's share of it. The higher it is, the faster your truck pumps, because it's less gravity to deal with. But when you get to the bottom, as the content goes down, it thickens up. The material becomes more dense and takes more to pump out. So it can seem like it takes forever. You get down to that bottom 5 or 6 inches, and that's where the majority of the stuff you're really trying to get out of there is sitting. And then the truck just bogs down. It's just like, oh my God. Do something, it just feels like it's not doing anything. It takes 40 minutes longer than the first trip, and you just want to bang your head against the wall, because all you're doing is, I mean, I'm trying to keep busy and stuff, but it's like 4 in the morning and I'm dead tired. I want to be done. I want this shit to be done so I go home. It's just, well, oh God, stop. So on occasion, I get frustrated with it and I pull it up, and you do that too many times that stuff builds up, and then you get this horrific problem, and then you're 10 times more bullshit. So sometimes you don't have a choice. You just got to sit there and do the best you can. And then you add insult to injury. The current hose I use is brand new, and it was the very end of the roll. So these things come in these big rolls. So it's very tightly coiled for a long period of time. So the problem now is that no matter, I've had it up for about 2 months now, and it's still coiled real bad. So you throw it down in 15 feet down into a pit, and that hose wants to curl up on you, and so you're screwing with it. You're trying to get it up, so you need the weight of the stuff pumping in it to hold it down, and it gets to a certain point and it starts wanting to pop up. I just can't fight it no more. I gave up on it. You start dealing with being cold and the wind, and it was snowing Friday, early Saturday morning. We had light snow too. Didn't amount to nothing, but it sure wakes you up a little bit. So we are in that time of the year. We're looking at 10-degree temperatures by next weekend, so we're seeing some significant temp drops. It's been averaging in the 30s to 40s for the past couple of weeks, which is kind of unusual for December in Iowa. So, you know, and it's been a very dry winter so far. Very, very dry. Very little. We had a lot of rain, don't get me wrong, but very little snow. And even the rain was, it came and went on a couple, it was kind of a lot then nothing for a long time. A lot then nothing for a long time. Very strange. So here we are the next 2 months. Weather's up for grabs. I mean, you know, y'all deal with the weather wherever you're at, whatever weather you get wherever you're at. So, anyhow, once again, y'all have a great weekend. From me and Missy over here. Till next time.